Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here, FiOS 1 News Long Island and FiOS 1 News New Jersey, and in a very short period of time I will be joined by my colleague and partner, FiOS 1 News Hudson Valley's Joe Rao, who is just doing a little bit of extra housework at the moment with respect to taking care of the weather. Of course, the Hudson Valley getting hit very hard by the severe weather, as did Connecticut, with 3 tornadoes now that were confirmed, and Joe's going to talk more about the impact there on the Hudson Valley. We've got some radar screenshots from yesterday and a satellite loop, and we're going to look at the pattern going forward, which, by the way, does not look especially promising if you're looking for long-term decent weather. And by long-term, I'm talking, a couple of days. I think people would just, I think you folks would be happy if we could just get a couple of days of nice weather back to back. But even that is going to be a real struggle. I think what we're going to see here is occasional interruptions of the overall pattern, which is a wet one, with some dry conditions from time to time. The first such interruption will probably come later tomorrow afternoon into the very first part of Friday, and then we're going to do it all over again with respect to the rain that'll come back in for later Friday night into part of Saturday. And there's going to be the threat for some showers or thunderstorms running around here at some point on Sunday. So not the most ideal weekend for sure to look ahead to. We also have flood watches up for New Jersey basically from Route 78 south. It does extend up into northern Warren County, so that goes almost up to Route 80 in the far western part of the state, but 2/3 of New Jersey under a flood watch. And also for parts of eastern Pennsylvania. This is because of the fact that the rainfall has been rather impressive over the last week or so, and the ground is absolutely saturated. Certainly today's rain has added to that, and as a result, it's not going to take too much to cause some flooding. I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe if that flood watch winds up getting extended a little further north, maybe into the North Jersey counties, or possibly even into Long Island. So let me just say a quick hi to everybody. John Sears, good evening to you too. Grandpa Joe, I was off the last couple of days. Actually, was off since Friday night. My daughter gave birth a week early to a 6-pound, 15-ounce baby boy, and he's doing quite well. Everybody's home. My daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandson are all home and doing fine. So that's at the bottom line. That is the most important thing here for me. And a number of you, by the way, have extended some really wonderful kind wishes and kind words, and I just want to give everybody a collective thank you for that. Mr. Rao has now walked into the door.
Yes.
And I thought we'd talk about, I brought some stuff up from yesterday we can go over, because you being the man who keeps things under control in the Valley Hudson.
Well,
I got a radar, a satellite loop, and I was looking for some radar screenshots. I couldn't find any that were around yet, but I did happen to take a couple of them yesterday, so I brought those up right at the point that there were 2 tornado warnings out for the Hudson Valley, and we can bring that up here.
What's interesting, Joe, is that the tornado warnings were for places in Ulster County, Dutchess County, Sullivan County, and yet the tornadoes took place further south in Orange County and also in Putnam County. 2 in Putnam and 1 in Orange County.
That cell that's in that tornado, one of the things that Leon of Lindenhurst, who's one of my regulars, asked this question, and I think it's a legitimate question, because they put up a severe thunderstorm warning for Long Island yesterday, and then they had to take it down because of the fact that the thunderstorms did wind up weakening, as they often do when they hit the marine layer.
Right.
One of the things that when these things are happening, a lot of times the warnings are preemptive, in the sense that they see where the radar echo is, and they we figure out where it's going, so you and you see the trend of it strengthening, so you're going to want to anticipate that the warning is going to be maybe east of where the actual echo is. And that could have been, these things happen very quickly. It's almost impossible to keep it up in terms of time.
This squall line was so incredibly intense and so rapid as well, and it's pushed southward. I think it was going at one point like 40, 50 miles an hour. But that thunderstorm warning that you just alluded to was probably one of the biggest thunderstorm warning areas I have ever seen. It encompassed the entire Hudson Valley, and indeed encompassed Long Island and portions of northern New Jersey as well. And I figure that the guys over at the National Weather Service were just simply saying, the heck, somebody's going to get clobbered, and it's going to be somewhere in this vicinity. We might as well just broad brush and cover this whole area.
And I think that probably made excellent sense. Here's the one. I think maybe this is the one you were just referring to, because this actually has the severe thunderstorm warnings up. Let me get you back into the picture, because we don't want to cut you out. But the yellow boxes are all the severe thunderstorm warnings that are up, and virtually all of the northern half of New Jersey is under a severe thunderstorm warning here. All of the Hudson Valley along and south of Route 84 under the warning, and then Long Island, again, I guess anticipating that if the line holds together, this is going to cause a problem
sheer
even
momentum.
for coastal. Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter if you got, and we just saw this last week. In fact, Leon, I posted something. I think the more recent, what was it? They're all coming together now, melding together in my mind. Yeah. We had a thunderstorm threat last week, and I made the comment, here they come, and I think it was Leon, and also Mike Rizzo made the comment, they'll never break that wall, that marine layer wall. And guess what? They did. There were a few potent storms that made it all the way out as far east as where you are.
Yeah, they did. Well, late in the afternoon, the warm sector, the warm sector wound up bursting into Suffolk County. It wasn't enough in terms of to compensate for sitting in the marine layer all day long.
Right.
But the thunderstorms did hold together pretty well in Nassau County, and then they weakened as they got into Suffolk. If you look at Connecticut, that big red, that's the tornado warning. That tornado that went into Oxford, Connecticut, which is
Brookfield,
right? Yeah, which is not that far from Route 84 out to Waterbury and Route 8. So it is that isn't that far to the east from the New York State line and from easternmost Dutchess County. That was quite a storm. Now we've had 3 confirmed tornadoes after the Weather Service did their assessment. Correct?
Right. An F0. This is on the old Fujita scale.
Right.
An F0 with the maximum winds of 85 miles an hour. That traveled about 600 yards in and around the vicinity of Newburgh, New York, in Orange County. And the 2 other tornadoes, an F1, the F1 was located near Patterson up in the northern part of Putnam County. That was an F1 average speed of around 100 mile per hour. That didn't travel very far, only about 75 yards, according to the estimate or guesstimate. And then there was the F2, and just to give you an idea, some of you may remember, I think it was in 2007, we had an F2 tornado, the strongest ever, to cut right across Westchester County. South central Westchester County had an F2 tornado in July of that year. Well, this was an F2 yesterday, and that was in the vicinity of Kent, also in Putnam County. Max winds there about 110, 115 miles per hour.
That's amazing, isn't it? And especially given the fact that we really don't see, we get severe weather here, but it's not all that often.
No, in fact, there was a storm, a tornado in Worcester, Massachusetts, I think in 1953, and I think they categorized that as an F3. And I read one paper, did extensive damage to the city of or town of Worcester, and I read a paper in the AMS Bulletin that said that theoretically that was probably about as high up on the Fujita scale for a tornado that you can get in this part of the country.
Yeah.
You don't see F2s and F3s very often,
no.
But we had them yesterday. But you know what, Joe? Another thing, and I mentioned this with Addison Green yesterday, as we were watching this squall line work its way southward at this tremendous speed, I said, this could work also just like you have a Category 1 hurricane. And that you say, oh, okay, it's a Category 1. But if you get that Category 1 moving at about 30 or 40 miles an hour, chugging along, that's going to add to the potential destruction. And this thing, already very, very intense, this squall line yesterday, coming on down. I mean, you just knew that there were going to be all kinds of problems with this.
Here's the satellite loop, and the new GOES satellite. You could see the layers of the clouds, and this loop is pretty impressive as these thunderstorms develop.
Look at that.
You see these incredible tops, and then
Wow.
watch here now. We're right at this point. You start to really see these thunderstorms blow up in that squall line. Of course, it's invisible, so that it just goes goodbye.
Right.
But it'll run through again, and we broke out into the warm sector, although Long Island had a bit of a tougher time.
Right.
Then here comes that squall line. And this front, by the way, is going to be haunting us for a while. It's going to buckle back and forth for the next 4 or 5 days, and this is going to be problematic. I mean, look at that thing just blow up as we went into nighttime. Just really an incredible sight.
Now at Mount Holly, the National Weather Service that's in the Philadelphia area and also has jurisdiction over central and southern New Jersey, has posted not a flash flood, a flood watch for central and southern Jersey, starting 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, running until Saturday morning, for the potential, in some of the worst case scenarios, 2 to 4 inches of rain.
Well, it's been raining there all day. It's raining there tonight into tomorrow morning, and yeah, I certainly could. I'm not going to argue. I'm certainly not going to argue. Here's the radar right now. This is as of 9:21, and we had most of the rain that has fallen today. It's been kind of a steady light to occasionally moderate rain, but now we've got the second area that's loading up to our south and west, and I'm going to just freshen this up really fast, so just to make sure we got the last couple of frames in there.
Loops or whatever.
Yeah, and the rain that's back through southern Pennsylvania, down through Delaware, Maryland, that's going to be coming in overnight into the first part of tomorrow. I'm thinking we could get maybe a bit of a break tomorrow afternoon as this front buckles back southward and some drier air comes down from the north.
Now the question, of course, tomorrow, once the rain does stop, and I agree with you, I think it'll probably be over for at least a little while by about midday tomorrow, 12, 1 o'clock. Then after that, it's going to be a matter of whether or not we can break out into any sunshine. I'm not talking about breaking out into a beautiful sunshiny afternoon, but just some pokes of sun, or maybe the cloud cover thinning enough so that you can see a bit of the sun tomorrow in the afternoon.
I would think that would be enough to probably take temperatures reflexively up to 70 in some places.
Yeah.
There's your flood watch, by the way. All of New Jersey from 78 south. Warren County kind of pokes north of there to about Route 80. Also, most of eastern Pennsylvania south of Route 78, down into Delaware, Maryland, and West Virginia. The rain has been heavier to the south, so the risk certainly increases as you go south, and that's probably the reason why it's not up for North Jersey or the Hudson Valley or for Long Island. The rain from those thunderstorms yesterday didn't amount to a whole lot.
Right.
It was
really
just
one big burst.
Yeah.
It was really the wind and the potential tornado threat. And on my Facebook page yesterday, Joe, well, first of all, about 11 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and those who were on my Facebook page saw that, I took a frame from the HRRR, which showed a very well-defined squall line moving through around 5 or 6 o'clock. And I said, look, batten down. We're gonna get hammered. There was no question in that case. And right after I posted that, the convective outlook came out, and the mesoscale outlook came out from the Storm Prediction Center, which were strongly, I think they said 95% of a watch going up, well, of course, but also talking about or bandying about the word tornado more than a few times. And it was at that point that I said, this does not look good. And even as late as 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, when we had here at FiOS 1, we always have at around 3:10 or 3:15 an editorial meeting in the newsroom, a meeting of the mind, so to speak, as to what we're going to cover. And a couple of people in the meeting were, somewhat questioning. They said, is this really going to happen because it's so beautiful outside? The sun was out, hardly any cloud cover. At the same time, we had up in Dutchess, Ulster, and Sullivan County, they were getting hammered already. And I said, that thing is going to drop. The hammer is going to come down within the next 60 to 90 minutes. And sure enough, in it came. And, well, here's the post-mortem. We all have seen what has happened in the aftermath.
Right. Okay, I'm going to bring up, we're going to bring up the upper air for late Friday night, early Saturday. And let me just bring us back up to the top here. So this is the flow at 18,000 feet, and here this is the problem that we have with respect to the pattern going forward. There is a big upper high that is sitting right out off the Atlantic seaboard. There's a ridge off the East Coast. It's not along the East Coast, it's off the East Coast. And this is a problem because of its position. If it was inland of the East Coast, we'd be very warm to hot and really wouldn't have too much to worry about. But the problem is you've got a trough that's sitting in the middle Mississippi Valley down into the Gulf of Mexico. The high is offshore, so you've got this, almost straight south flow. And in fact, that southerly flow actually starts out down in the Caribbean. So we're bringing up tropical air up the eastern seaboard. On top of that, the other issue, Joe, is the fact that, our northern jet stream, which this time of year would be our friend if it were far enough south, because that would bring down some dry Canadian air masses, is so far, it's too far north. So it can't get rid of that trough, and that ridge isn't going anywhere. So what you have is this just continual pumping of tropical moisture up the eastern seaboard. And when you look at the long range, it conceivably could last right through the end of the month, into the very beginning of June. I mean, it won't be that doesn't mean it rains continuously, but it does mean that a string of nice weather days. It's going to be very hard to come by. Maybe you could get a day here or a day there, but we're going to be dealing with, rain more often than not over the next, at least the next week, and if not the next 2 weeks.
Isn't this what they refer to as a Rex block in the atmosphere?
It could be, to some degree. Yeah. To some degree, and the other thing is, we were talking about. I'm just going to bring this up now. Let me just get rid of this, and I'll bring the GFS up. At some point, as we get toward the end of the month and into June, if we're going to have this pattern extending down in the Caribbean with all this moisture, and we've been, a lot of people have been saying it, and we've discussed the fact about the GFS keeps showing that tropical system coming out of there.
I haven't even had
well, it is showing that, but one of the things I did do today. Is that because I don't often get the chance to do it. I've been doing it on and off, but I went and looked at the other models. For the first time, the European and the Canadian, starting at around the 8th or 9th day, they all do develop something down in the Northwest Caribbean. And now at that point, it puts us toward the end of the month, which I think climatologically would make things, would perhaps make more sense.
Yes.
But just want to keep that in mind. Not that any of it has any impact on us, but if that moisture field is still open, it is going to mean for tropical moisture to continue to move up the seaboard until further notice.
And we sometimes, when we get into a very warm or even a hot weather pattern, you always hear automatically in the forecast, hazy, hot, and humid. All right, it is humid and it might be hot, but sometimes it's not necessarily hazy. In fact, you have a term which I love that you've used on occasion when we've had this southerly sweep of air up from the tropics, tropical skies.
Oh, yeah, I do
like the kind of sky you would see in Puerto Rico, where
Florida,
or Florida, blue. No, certainly not hazy, but blue skies, big billowing cumulus clouds flying on by.
No, this is not a hazy situation.
Oh, no.
This is a tropical warm, tropical humidity, and again, you look at, it's loaded with moisture here. This is on for tomorrow morning, and we're going to have some more rain to deal with overnight into tomorrow morning. I mean, basically, we've got wet weather from Cuba all the way up to just north of New York City.
By the way, you were making a commentary about LaGuardia Airport a couple of weeks ago in terms of the fact that they had like near 100-degree or over 100-degree
This was last year, yeah.
Last year. How do you explain the fact that Newark Airport and LaGuardia both yesterday had 92, and
wow.
Teterboro reported a high of 97?
Okay, here's the thing. I did have this conversation when I was out at the Weather Service last week, and we talked about this. The equipment at LaGuardia is fine. It's been checked and rechecked.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, a lot of that has to do with the surrounding, area, stuff that's going on over there.
Right.
Newark is fine. All the stations are fine. Teterboro's got a problem.
Yeah.
They recognize that they've said that there's a problem at Teterboro. They haven't figured out what it is, but there is a problem there at Teterboro.
Right.
So you bring up a good point. That 97 was way out of whack.
I'd say it was about as far. I can just imagine when we truly get a siege of extreme heat,
right.
and LaGuardia is like 96 and Newark is 97. One only can wonder what Teterboro's going to
Well, I can tell you. I mean, I kind of, after all these years, I sort of know the difference between 89 or 90 and how it feels when it's 96 or 7. I was in Jersey City yesterday. It felt like 88, 89, 90. It did not feel like 97.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I brought the NAM up, the last run of the NAM. We got this rain that comes in for overnight into Thursday. Then we get a bit of a break because you see everything kind of sinks southward. But the problem with that, Joe, is we've got another one of these highs coming down from the north.
Right.
Another onshore flow, which means we go into the soup again like we had today. And
right.
that means raw, miserable conditions developing later Friday. There's the rain that comes up for Friday night into Saturday. Now, I'm thinking we might get a little bit of a break here for late Saturday into Sunday afternoon. If we can get this warm front to go, this front buckles back up northward, that right. we could wind up with a break. But the other thing is that I did notice, and let me just bring the GFS back up, there is another cold front that, that front comes back down on Sunday afternoon
right.
with maybe some more showers and thunderstorms.
Right.
I don't know if this is going to be another, severe... Another round of severe, but
we don't need
there are going to be, I think, some thunderstorms around later Sunday afternoon.
Governor Cuomo actually came to my hometown today, Putnam Valley, which really, I'm not saying it was the epicenter. Obviously, the epicenter of the severe weather would be in some of the places that had tornadic activity, or microburst or macrobursts,
right.
if you will. But where I am, we're renowned for having lots of trees, and a lot of those trees did not see beyond yesterday. A lot of them ended up on many of the roadways and on many of the power lines. And the only thing I could say about that is that Governor Cuomo decided to do his news conference about the severe weather from my hometown. And you see the National Guard there, and you see all the NYSEG people there. So I'm hoping that with his influence, that perhaps we may be among the first to get our power back. And we don't have power tonight. I'm probably not going to have power tomorrow night. I'm hoping to get it back by Friday, or at the very latest Friday.
Right.
And some folks may not have it for quite a few days. A friend of mine, Dennis Cassia, who often frequents our Joe and Joe show list, he is a firefighter, and he was telling me last night that they actually told, for some reason, they actually were told power everything down, turn the electricity off in the town of Brookfield. May have been because power lines were down, or on the roadways or whatever, but they actually had to shut the power down on purpose in places in Brookfield that still had it because of all of the damage that was done there last night.
I just wanted to check the Storm Prediction Center, which I did, to look at their longer range forecast for over the weekend. They don't have any severe weather threat for Sunday, but it's deep into the long range for them. Sometimes day 3 is long range for them. So
right.
We saw the Storm Prediction Center's risk area go up,
and this has happened
several times.
The last couple of storm threats here in our part of the country, we start out, let's say, with day 3,
we started out with marginal.
Then we go up to slight, and then
it went to enhanced, and then it went to moderate. They went to moderate for a little while, which
right.
doesn't really happen here. No. In fact, one of my regulars, Raymond, I'm always having trouble pronouncing his last name, but he actually sent me, let me see if I can bring it up. the last time, you know, I asked this question sort of rhetorically. I kind of asked this question: when was the last time we had a high risk of severe weather? A high risk.
Okay.
And you know, I can't remember ever seeing a high risk, but he actually found one.
I seem to remember, you know, I seem to remember there was one case, and I always say that, and this goes back on the old scale, slight, moderate, and high. Now they have moderate, enhanced, and this and that.
Right.
But I always used to say on the old scale that if we went into the moderate category, that we almost certainly were going to have a tornado threat.
Well, I unfortunately, let me see if I may be able to cut it out and bring it up. This was back in July of 1998. Was the one time. Just bear with me, Joseph.
All right. Well.
Okay, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna hopefully be able to bring it up on the screen. This was, I'm sorry, not July of 1990, May 31st, 1998.
Oh, so we were right after Memorial Day.
Right, and let's see. I think I'm going to be successful here.
And again, that was on the old scale. About 3 or 4 years ago, they had upgraded now, so that they now have a variety of different categories. And
I'm going to have to bring up a small version of this because I didn't have time to make it bigger. But this was the one time, and I'll put myself.
That we had high.
That we actually had a high risk. You might have to, if you're looking at this from home, I'll try to widen it out just a little bit more. And yeah, we were actually in a, look at the huge area of moderate risk.
Wow.
Going all the way back to Kentucky, West Virginia, and then they had high risk touching northern New Jersey, New York City, northern Pennsylvania, and the Hudson Valley and up into western New England. So that was the one time that we saw a high risk of severe weather.
You wouldn't happen to know what day of the week that was, would you? Or
we can Google it and find out. Give me a second here.
I mean, all you have to do is just go for calendar 1998, and you probably.
Okay. Let's see.
I just want to know if it was on a weekend.
Week was May 31st, 1998.
Isn't that amazing?
I have a friend that I could tell that he's got one of those memories, and I can give him the date.
Sunday. Okay, all right. I remember this particular scenario because I was working at that other news gathering organization in Yonkers, or they used to be in Yonkers. I refuse to say the name anymore.
All right, well, go on.
But,
no one's pulling. No one's twisting your arm here, Joe.
My arm here. But we had a weekend meteorologist by the name of Rob Eisenson. We used to refer to him as Professor Eisenson on the air because he taught meteorology at Western Connecticut College. But the day after this event, some of the behind the scenes people were coming up to me and saying Eisenson is going up and down. He was like running around like a chicken without a head. And he's saying, "We're going to die. We're all going to die." And I think that was on the radar. One particular batch of precipitation or was heading toward the Hudson Valley, and it was like a shade of deep fuchsia or deep purple to give the idea that this was going to be a not too good scenario that was coming by. So I think that was the date. That's why I wanted to know if it was on a weekend.
Angry Ben said he was on duty last night. 62 mile an hour sustained wind for 3 minutes at Floyd Bennett Field, and then another 4-minute burst of 60 miles an hour sustained.
Wow.
And Paul Savarese wants to know, what does it take to overcome the marine layer? No, this time of year it's monumental. I mean, you really need a cold front that's coming down, you know, from upstate New York or New England up through upstate New York, and you got to have a fairly tight westerly gradient. I mean, you got to have a good solid west wind that you know is creating a sustained wind of say 15 to 20 miles an hour to keep the sea breeze at bay this time of year for Long Island, and it doesn't happen that often in May. Right. You get deeper into June and July, the water temperature starts to warm up, it becomes less and less of an issue, but right now it's still too big of an issue, which causes those thunderstorms to weaken as they move eastward. Jason Kaplan pointing out, still weakened so much in Monmouth County.
Online, he was referring to that last convective event, which was, he said, last Thursday.
Yes, the marine layer also impacted Jason Kaplan over in Monmouth County. Correct. James Ortega got a perfectly clear and visible pic of the EF2 funnel in Carmel, Kent, going back up tomorrow to get more pics and video. Share away. We would love to see them.
Yeah.
And Danny Nankamar says the real wind in Kent was 120 miles an hour. What did they say it was? They said it was at least 100, right?
Which one? The
one in Kent, the EF2.
Oh, the one in Kent?
Yeah.
I said 110, 115. Again, I don't have, but 120. You know,
not in Bob. Who's going to really?
Who's going to argue?
Who's going to argue?
What's 5 miles between friends?
Right. And Rocco, correct. They were moving so quickly that they had to put the warning up for the whole area because there was no way to know for Long Island whether how fast those cells were going to weaken. And the fact, if they were moving fast, that would slow the weakening down. That's kind of what happened when a hurricane moving up the East Coast.
Right.
If it's accelerating at 40 or 50 miles an hour or more, that's going to keep it from weakening too fast, even though the water temperatures are pretty cold. And
what is that? Conservation of angular momentum or something like that? I don't know.
Just trying to get...
I'm trying to remember. The last time I could remember, like, whenever I see something like this, and what we had here with this squall line coming straight down from the north, I always think back to July, I think it was July 21st, 1983, the infamous Diana Ross concert in Central Park.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Remember that? And I remember watching, WNBC had a live camera, which didn't happen too often back then. That was something kind of special when they actually had a live camera shot. And they were in Central Park, and the skies were getting dark, and Dr. Frank Field, who was then the meteorologist at Channel 4, he's showing the radar, this solid line dropping down from the Hudson Valley toward New York City, and he's telling everybody, batten down the hatches, and the sky is getting black in the north. People are watching. Now it's going to start to rain, and I remember watching live on Channel 4, Diana Ross up on the stage. She's holding a microphone. She's got this tremendous amount of public address electronic stuff, and she's saying, "Don't worry about it, it's just a little rain. No worry." Because people are scurrying every which way. And I'm watching this, and I'm saying to myself, we're going to see a superstar fricasseed right on stage, right on Central. That was not the thing to do.
No, as a soccer coach, I remember the first sign of any lightning, you just, you took the kids off.
You just dropped the, say on the microphone and said, "Everybody go for cover," whatever. And she's telling everybody, like, "Don't worry about it. It's nothing. Just a few raindrops."
By the way, Rocco, was there baseball-sized hail? Some places, some reports this morning.
2-inch hail in parts of the Hudson Valley. That's more like a golf ball, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than a golf, maybe a tennis ball, or
well,
a little bit smaller than a tennis ball.
Well, baseball is 2.7 inches in diameter. So
okay, so it was a little smaller than that.
Yeah. How did we measure, hailstones before golf was invented?
I just kind of turn it around. I always just say golf balls the size of hail.
Oh God!
And just do it in reverse.
Or sometimes teacup sized.
Danny Nankamar, very quickly. He asks one of the maybe up and coming meteorologists. He wants to know the advice of people who want to be interested in weather or meteorology.
Well, what do you want to be? Do you want to do research, or do you want to be on television? Joe and I got watered down by the television bug.
Yes.
We're not doing. Or you could go.
There's so many. There's so many options. There's just so many.
You go to the National Weather Service.
Right.
Although I might point out, if you want to go and be at the National Weather Service, don't expect necessarily to be here at this weather service. You may have to go
someplace else.
And it's
but in terms of overall options, there's so many more options than when we were, because television when we started out was basically turning the dial by hand, and there were only the local stations. Cable was in its absolute infancy. I don't know that either of us really envisioned the day when there was going to be like all these network stations and apps and the Weather Channel and Weather Nation and all and so on and so forth. Plus, when we started out, weather meteorology in the private industry was pretty much had whittled down to nothing, and now that's grown considerably. So your options are many. I would just say whatever it is you like, that's what you go for. If you want to do TV, go for that. If you want to do it on your own, go for that, because you can do that now with social media and the internet and so on. You have many more options available to you. Just find what it is that you like. Find the specialty that you like. For me, it's always been snowstorms. For some people, it's severe weather. For some people, it's hurricanes. For some people, it's other things. But find what it is that drives your passion and just go for it.
Right.
You're good with that.
I'm good with it, yeah. I'm trying to remember what was the classifications. You had a GS5, and then you work your way up to a GS10 or something.
I think now it's like a 7.911. Bob Wilson wants to know from you, do you have a tent for 12,000 people at the Marist College outdoor graduation late Saturday morning?
Oh, dear. Well, can they not? Oh, I guess not. I was going to say, don't you have an auditorium? But 12,000 people... You'd need something along the lines of like the Nassau Coliseum for that or whatever.
All right, I think we're going to call it a night. What do you think?
I think so. Well, I just wanted. I don't know if you mentioned. I saw a number of people offering you congratulations.
All right, and, so you go ahead. I'll get my picture. Hang on a second.
I said to Joe when I got the news last Friday. There it is, right there.
Well, it's there, but they're not seeing it yet.
Oh, he's not seeing it there.
Hang on.
It seems weird because Joe and I have known each other now for about 40 years, and we were in our 20s when we met. And now here we have progressed all the way now to 4 decades, and he beat me to the punch. He is now the grandfather.
Grandfather before you.
Yeah. I know. A lot of my friends are grandfathers now. I'm going to be the last one probably to reach that pinnacle.
Well, you need to have conversations.
Well, I'm not going to rush anybody here, But
I have to tell you. As a when you're a parent, and then of course then comes the grandparent part of it, and the grandparent part of it is, what did I do with it? This is what happens, Joe. You're almost sick. My memory, I just saved the darn image and I don't even know where I saved it. Now I'm going to save it again. All right.
Just put Joe Baby or whatever. Hey, Joe Baby!
Oh, God. Hang on. Here we go.
We're going to get this shot up there.
There we are. There he is.
There it is.
There's my little grandson. Yeah, when you have your baby, when you have your own children, it's the experience, and there's nothing like it, obviously. But when you have a grandchild, there's something, it's so different, and there's a specialness about it that I can't, it's hard for me to even put it into words, but our audience skews higher, so I'm thinking we also have a number of grandparents out there, so they know what I'm talking about. When your day comes, you'll get it, okay?
Yeah. There are times, and this is like after my kids, I have a son who's going to be 28 in October, my daughter in another month or so is going to turn 25, and the thing about this is that after they were born, a while after they were born, you say to your wife, it's too bad we didn't have a third, or and you say you missed.
Well, I
out.
went that route.
And you say we missed out on that. She looked at me and said, "Well, don't get any ideas." But when you have a grandchild, it's like all of a sudden you've been granted your wish or your chance again. And you
get to give them back when they get, ornery.
Oh, that's absolutely true. That's the best part of being a grandchild, grandfather.
But the other thing is too, as it's kind of funny. You'll understand what I'm getting at. And I was trying to find it on YouTube, and it's not there. But I was trying to find the I Love Lucy episode after the first episode after little Ricky is born, and they're in the apartment, and the baby's crying and crying and crying, and they introduce Mrs. Trumbull.
Right.
Okay, in that. That's the one where Ethel says, "Don't worry, Lucy. We can rent that apartment just like that.
Right.
And even if we couldn't, it wouldn't matter because my friendship with the Ricardos means more to me than all the money on earth." And as Lucy responded, that scene got more plays than South Pacific. Well, that scene at the end, but at the end, Mrs. Trumbull is holding the baby, and the baby has stopped crying. And I thought of that yesterday as I was holding him because he was screaming and crying. They had just changed their diapers. He wanted to be fed, and so I had him and I'm feeding him. Absolute silence. He was quiet. He ate, and I was done with the bottle. You just hold him. He's looking at you.
Right. You're
looking at him. There's this sort of grandparent-grandchild connection. It's there. It's absolutely there.
And when he gets to be like 5, 6, 7 or whatever like that, he runs in. Mommy, guess what? Grandpa said we're going to Disney World.
Right. Yeah. He did get his first tackle box already for fishing. I got him ready.
Breaking him in sooner than even I would think.
Absolutely. Okay, so Fios 1 News Long Island, Fios 1 News New Jersey at the top of the hour. Stay dry.
And Fios 1 News Lower Hudson Valley. And I promise you, over the next few days, we're not going to have anything like what we had yesterday. I hope for a long, long time.
All right, folks, have a great evening. Joe and I will be back tomorrow night right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show.
Yes.